Hi, so this is my first attempt at a much larger compost pile. Traditionally, I've been composting for years in these earth machines, and maybe I would do a video on those. You can actually compost quite successfully in those machines as long as you're not in a hurry. But I got a lot of garden, and I've run out of compost, or I'm running out of compost, and I want to make it faster. So what I've done is I put together, it could not be quicker and dirtier here. All I did was take 3 pallets that I had saved over the years just from deliveries coming, and I didn't throw them away. And I just put brackets here and there in the corners and hold it together. Relatively sturdy. It's going to be more than enough for our purposes. You just need some water available. I have a hose over here. We're going to use lots of grass clippings, and that's for the nitrogen, and for the carbon I'm going to use chopped leaves. So we're going to use this lawnmower to chop up those leaves. We'll show you that. And this is what we're looking to get as an end product, and that is finished compost. And it looks like dirt, but there is no dirt in there. This is completely organic material, all broken down. It's the gold for your garden. So let's get started. Let's see how high of a temperature we can get this up to in just a couple of days, and see how fast we can turn this into compost. Okay, so I need this ingredient. I have the grass already, but now I need some leaves. So I'm gonna collect some leaves and run over them with the lawnmower. What I do is every year I get about 5 loads of leaves from my landscaper. When he cleans up other people's property, he drops them off here. We're going to use these in the garden. We just want to get the ones on top that are dry. We want them to really chop up fine. The finer they chop up, the faster they're going to degrade and compost. And since we're looking for quicker compost, we want to use those really dry leaves. I'm just going to drop them off right here. Spread them out. Take out any garbage. It's an unfortunate fact, if you use leaves, garbage flows into them just from everywhere. And you're going to find a bit of trash, so always take a little bit of time, look quickly, pull out any garbage. Otherwise it's going to get shredded. So we're going to get ready and put down the first layer. What I've done first is I put some sticks down. I always compost with sticks at the bottom. You don't have to do the sticks. One thing I do the sticks for is that I like to know when I'm going to find the bottom. If you use the earth machines, sticks at the bottom is extremely helpful. I also think they provide some aeration, and they tend to dissolve. You'll never get back as many sticks out of the compost pile as you put in, and so you're just making more compost. So that's what we do that. We're going to put down a layer of grass. And you don't have to be precise, you don't have to be exact, but I'm going to put down a couple of inches of grass in the bottom. Grass will compost even by itself with nothing else. We're just going to use leaves to kind of push the process along and to make better compost. Don't worry how much grass you use. Just don't use grass that has chemicals or especially like weed killer on it. You want to use clean grass. My backyard, I don't use anything. I'm going to put a layer of leaves on. Okay. Really want to kind of aerate the grass as you're putting it down. You don't want to really drop it in clumps like I just did. And once we do this, we'll throw some water on there. And I should have really put that on the leaves, but that's okay. Let's do another layer of leaves. more leaves. I think I'm gonna go get a whole stash of leaves. Be back in a minute. In terms of planning, if you're planning to put in something like this, a huge leaf bin, try and have an area nearby where you can run them over with a lawnmower. You don't really want to be transporting your materials long distances if you can help it. Also make sure you don't get any big sticks in here. You don't want to drive over any big sticks. All right, now I got more leaves. I'm gonna finish this. If the leaves aren't chopped up enough for your liking, you can chop them up more. Again, I'm not trying to go crazy. I'm trying to keep it simple. You can see how easy this is. Leaves are a fantastic resource for the garden. I use them also in mulching, but I want to use them more heavily in composting now that I have a bin for them, a regular supply. Every year I get about 5 truckloads. So I go through that, and that's about right. That's about my needs. And people want to get rid of leaves. They just can't, they don't want to see them on their property. The landscaper doesn't charge me to bring me leaves. The only thing sometimes is he does a lot of labor to move them all the way into the back of my property, and for that, you deserve to get paid. But the leaves themselves are a free resource. That looks great. Looks like it's really coming along. I find with leaves, they're pretty powerful as a carbon. And so you just put, you don't need to put a thick layer down. You want to put a lot of grass. You can't really almost put too much grass in here because it'll compost by itself. But with this and the leaves together, it's going to really go. And we're going to throw a couple more things in here because we can, because that's what composting is all about. So right after this layer, I'm going to start throwing some ashes in here because that's a great nutrient. Okay, so I've assembled a couple of more items. None of this stuff is necessary. You can just do the grass and leaves. The only other thing that I think is probably a good idea if you want to do this on the reg is a compost thermometer. Compost thermometer is a very handy thing just to let you know what's going on inside that pile. You might be quite surprised. And we'll use this later to see how much temperature we can generate. And what I have over here is I have some buckets of garden waste, a bucket of ashes, and these are some buckets of kitchen waste. The only reason I'm using these is because I can and I want to get rid of them. I also want to show that you can pretty much put anything in here. These, in terms of the nitrogen to carbon, these are kind of like nitrogen bombs. They're generally heavy nitrogen. But that's okay. They're going to mix with the leaves and we're going to get everything going. So let's put some ashes on this layer, which is what I wanted to do. Throw down a layer. Really good for your plants, but it will change the pH. And so if we put it through the composter, we won't have that issue. Okay, I've gathered a lot more materials. Just change gloves because my gloves go wet. And I have this thermometer, and you can check this out. So that's about the ambient temperature. And I mean, we only just got started here. We're going to put this in the corner while we build this layer, and let's see if we've already got some temperature going. Grass tends to heat up very fast. One of the problems with building a compost pile of this size is that it takes a lot of materials. And that's why I use the earth machines traditionally. You can use one load of grass from that lawnmower and a fraction of the leaves that we're using here and a ton of kitchen waste. And maybe I should do a video on how you compost effectively in those earth machines. And got that compost I showed you in the beginning came out of earth machines. So you may not have the materials, enough materials to build a compost pile like this, and that's not unusual. So the earth machines might be a good solution for you. Okay, so we're going to build another layer of this. Again, you just want to aerate everything as you put it down, spread it around. Okay, I'm going to get a layer of ash on, and now we're going to throw some of the waste in here. Now that we're closer to the middle of the pile. One question you may have is, can you put weed seeds in here? Well, I can tell you, after composting for many years in those earth machines, you can absolutely compost anything, whether it says you're allowed to or not. If you do compost weed seeds and you don't get hot, then you may regret it. This has grass seed in it, it has clover seed in it. I'm not making any kind of real, I don't have that ability to kind of only select grass without seed, but I kept out like flower seeds and things like that out of here. All right, let's do one of these garden wastes. Stuff is generally, look at this, some carrots, hops and some carrots that went bad. A few weedless things. We'll put a little on top of that. Again, you don't need to do this to make this pile, but you can. I gotta turn on my water again. Okay, I just took a break for a couple of seconds. I had to return on this water. I don't leave the water back here on all the time. It's on a timer. Okay, why don't you go take a look at the temperature and tell me whether anything is even picking up yet. So look at that. We're already at a steady pile. You'd already have a respectable heat level going. It just wouldn't hold that heat very long if it didn't have the right amount of fuel, but this does. It's going to heat up a lot more. All right, let's keep building. Keep layering it on. Just keep layering it on. Okay, why don't we put another garden waste in here? If you were here right now, you'd smell the smell. It's a very powerful smell. It's a bad odor. That's what happens when very nitrogen heavy substances just decompose on their own. So that's why I call that a nitrogen bomb. It's very heavy nitrogen. So whenever I do that, I always just kind of hit it with some leaves. More grass. So I mean, we're talking about going through to see how many it uses, but this is already 3 lawnmower fulls of grass and about 6 wheelbarrows of leaves. I use all that. Well, 6 wheelbarrows of whole leaves in terms of chopped. It's barely a wheelbarrow. Barely a wheelbarrow. And don't worry, you know, I use leaves. I tend to use them much thicker than I use the chopped leaves. I find these chopped leaves are quite powerful. You can experiment with your own ratios. I tried using more leaves, more and more leaves in the composter, but after a certain point, I found that too many leaves will cause you to lose your heat very quickly, and unless you add more fuel in the form of nitrogen, you will not have very quick compost. If you're not in a rush, you can do whatever you want. All you have to do is just throw this stuff in here. You can throw it in 1 bucket at a time. It'll break down very slowly, but it will break down. So you'll get compost no matter what you do. All right, let's put down, now this is kitchen waste. You can just see eggs and a lot of coffee grinds in here. This is fantastic for your composter. This would normally go in those earth machines. I don't know if I plan on switching over completely to this style. If I do, then I'll compost the kitchen waste more in there. But if I don't, I'll keep it using the kitchen waste in the earth machines. Right now, the only reason I'm really doing this is just so you can see you can do anything in here. Don't need this. This is, again, and a very heavy nitrogen. So I always put it on top of the leaves. Maybe we'll wet that down. The leaves are very dry. You can see how nicely they chop, so be a little more make a little more effort to put water in there. I don't think we're going to use too much more water though. They say you want your compost to wring out and to feel like a well-worn sponge, where you'd have to squeeze it to get water out of it, but it has enough water to come out if you were to squeeze it. It's a lot easier to show you in those earth machines the proper moisture level of compost. But for now, we're just winging it. Again, this is my first time with a pile this large and watering. And the earth machines, because you're using kitchen waste and it comes with a lot of liquid, I find very little need to put water, add water into the earth machines. But out here, we have a different setup. When I'm done, I'm going to put a tarp over all this. I can say honestly, I had no idea how many materials I was going to need to build this, and it's quite a bit more than I thought I would need. But I want a lot of compost. This is the way to go. All right, so I'm going to finish this pile here. I've gotten some more resources. I'm up to 4 lawnmowers full of leaves, and that's about the equivalent of 12 level wheelbarrows of unchopped leaves. So it's about 2 wheelbarrows of chopped leaves. I don't think that's going to finish this pile. Might have to get it one more time, but not to bore you with doing the rest of this. We'll do this on quick speed, time lapse, and my son will help me finish building it. So let's get to it. You know, again, I got to point out about how I'm struck by how much materials this pile takes. In the end, we used about 10 lawn tractors worth and approximately 15 of these level wheelbarrows, which we then mowed up. So that just used so much resources. I don't think it's necessarily practical. And now I really see the utility of the earth machines, where you can compost with a lot less, and primarily with kitchen waste it works well. And I think that I'll probably keep sticking with that into the future, at least for a while. But I'm really hoping I get a lot of compost out of this, so that'll be great. Okay, so we're done with building the compost pile. Looks fantastic. What we're going to do is we're going to take the thermometer, which I've just stuck in a pile of leaves just to show you. That's 70 degrees just to be in it. Normally it'll be a little colder than the ambient temperature to be inside a pile. We're going to go stick this in here. I don't expect it to go too far, but we'll put it really deep in there, and we'll go get a tarp, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes and see how that's doing. Let's go get that tarp. Okay, so the thermometer's in here. You can see it's gone up a couple of degrees, not even as much as when it was lower. And we'll come back in a couple of days. Let me go put the tarp on. Let me get it right over here. This is my first time doing this, so hopefully I used enough water. I didn't use too many leaves or too much stuff, but again, everybody says when you build these things not to sweat it. Everything's going to compost no matter what, that we know. Just trying to do it a little quicker. I'm trying to do it in large volume. Well, just hoping that this all works out. Pavers. Okay. See ya in a day or two. So it's been about 2 hours. I moved the thermometer to the side just so we can look at it without having to take the tarp on and off. So let's just see what we're getting again, because I just don't know how fast this is going to heat up. All right, not bad, not bad. About 85, 88. It's going up, and at least now we're in the green. We want to get all the way that into the hot. So let's see what happens. We'll come back again later. Okay, it's been 24 hours. Let's take a look. Let's go see how the compost is coming along. Oh yes. Let's start with the thermometer. I believe that's 150 or so. Looks like maybe it's a little under 150. If you put your hand in here, you can feel warmth, and it's extremely hot. It's actually burning to the touch, just putting down my finger in there a little bit. There's no smell whatsoever, despite there being kitchen waste and all kinds of other stuff in here. Let's take a look and see what we got. All right, here comes the big reveal. Look at that! I'd say, let me get a tape measure. All right, got the trusty tape measure. This was basically up to the top last night. Get that down, it's that 10.5 inches down. So maybe it was a ½ inch off the top. So we lost 10 inches in one day. That's awesome. I'm really excited. We're gonna maybe do another couple of videos or another video on what happens after this, but I think this concludes this portion. I'm super stoked. Big pile, burning really hot. Let's see how long it goes for, and I'll update you guys later.